Hey, welcome back to the Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Before we jump into today's topic, I just want to take a minute to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This episode is sponsored by TonaLaw. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. TonaLaw is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. If you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals, check out TonalLaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you. So we're breaking ground again today. I always say I don't have a lot of marketing people on the podcast, but I could not have on my next guest, which is Jacob Molina from StoryLeads IO. Jacob, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, Thomas. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Awesome. I'm glad you came on, man. Like I said in the intro, I don't usually have marketing people on here. I was always afraid to bring on marketing people because my experience has been kind of hit and miss. I've done a lot of posts about it. But since I've stopped managing my own marketing, it's been different, right? I've had my fractional CMO on. And then I thought having you on would be awesome because working with you has been a pleasure. So for those of you that don't know Jacob, and a lot of you may already know him, he's a ghostwriter. He owns a ghostwriting company that specializes really in LinkedIn for lawyers, right? And as somebody who became infatuated with LinkedIn and a personal brand on LinkedIn, the next iteration was working with you, Jacob. And I will say, hands down, working with you has been a pleasure. Your company is just different. And I love that. Whatever you're doing with the software you're using, the AI, whatever you're using, it's been awesome. Working with Uma from your company specifically and other people from your company, you've got it on lock. You've got the process down, the system down, and it just flows so nicely. So welcome to the show.
Sound good. I appreciate the compliments.
Yeah. So what led you to build this thing around the hyper specialization of LinkedIn for lawyers?
Yeah. So for a bit of context, I come from a tech background. So I was a product manager for various tech startups. And I got into LinkedIn because these tech startups were like you see the Honas, all the legal tech startups are all on LinkedIn. They know the lawyers are on there. So that's how they prospect. And so we were basically building software and the CEOs would ask me, hey, can you write me a LinkedIn post too? You understand the whole customer lifecycle and the feature that you just built. Can you write me a LinkedIn post about it? I said, sure, why not? How could that be? So I started doing those and they started getting a lot of traction. We were running email outbound campaigns. We were getting more replies on those and open rates were higher. And we were running LinkedIn ads and LinkedIn ads were performing better. I was like, what the heck is happening? And it's because we realized that the organic content that we're putting on LinkedIn from the founder's personal brand, from their account, built affinity and relationship with the cold audience. And so when people saw the ads and the emails from that founder, they're like, oh, it's Thomas or it's Eric or whatever. It's they're more receptive to the marketing that comes with it, or the paid stuff that comes behind it. And then a friend of mine found out that I was writing for these founders and he's like, hey, my wife's a commercial litigator. She just opened her firm a year ago. She knows her audience is on LinkedIn, but she really just doesn't know how to work it. I said, let me give it a shot. So I started writing for her for free because I had no idea what I was doing. It was the first time I was writing for a lawyer. And I wrote a couple posts and she blew up. It was instant. I was like, whoa. That's when I realized that they're how they say on TikTok, there's food talk and all these kinds of subgroups. Right. Well, I didn't realize there was a LinkedIn lawyers. I didn't realize that was a niche within LinkedIn. I was not in those networks and it popped off, but a bunch of the posts popped up and I was like, well, it's really interesting. But the biggest thing was the discovery of lawyers on LinkedIn, spending time on LinkedIn. But the second thing was these lawyers have such great stories. The content is so easy, it just writes itself. And it just clicked. I'm a big fan of Suits and all these legal shows. And I realized the reason lawyers have so many shows is because they have such good stories. And I know these stories are exaggerated, amplified, whatever, but there's an origin story, a foundational story that are truth to those stories that applies. And that's why they have these shows, because the content is so engaging. And so it just made sense. And then we just niched down to lawyers and we're just getting more and more lawyers. And again, now we have 80 lawyers we write for. So
wow,
yeah, that's kind of how
80 people. 80 people.
Yeah, 80 lawyers, yeah.
Oh, that's wild. So just to compound it a little bit, what people find interesting about it, whether it's the B2B sector or B2C sector, is lawyers have access that a lot of people don't, right? That piece of paper separates people that can go back and talk to a judge versus people who can't just walk in off the street and talk to a judge, right? So also knowledge about the rules of evidence and all of that stuff. I tell people, you could represent yourself. It's not going to go well. It's never going to go well in the Supreme Court of New York. It's just not going to go well. And then what you did that was interesting is you niched down on lawyers, but what did you notice most lawyers are getting wrong about LinkedIn?
I don't think it's just lawyers. I think it's broader than just lawyers, but I think the perception is that LinkedIn is this like CV, like resume job application site, which was the main intention at the beginning when LinkedIn was initially created like over a decade ago, but it's evolved into like what people make of it. And I think what's happening is more and more people are sharing those personal stories and anecdotes, and like they're thinking kind of out loud about like what they're building and how they're thinking about their business, their practice. And those are the people that are actually making content more interesting. And I think you're seeing more and more lawyers jumping onto that trend where like they're sharing about like tough case that they settle, or maybe talk about law school, or like why they would do law school differently, or like what they would do coming out of law school. And like all these lessons are super interesting. And the main topic is that like realizing is like there's all these younger lawyers or older lawyers that are chiming in and like have very strong opinions about all these things related to the law, the building of practice. I read a post the other day from Hunter, and he was saying like every lawyer should market themselves. That kind of was the premise of the post. And then this old school judge, former lawyer, said like, no, like if you're a good lawyer, you don't need to market yourself. So like this really interesting conversation happening on these different topics. And it makes for much more interesting dynamics and content, and it makes it more social, which is what LinkedIn wasn't before. It was just like, hey, just got a new job, applying to these 20 jobs or whatever, or like excited for this start or whatever it is. But it wasn't like what it is today. And so I think more people are building relationships, and heck, I met so many people through LinkedIn that now I connect with in person at conferences, legal conferences, and so on. It's like LinkedIn was the connector. LinkedIn was the reason I got to know these people. Right. And so I'm way beyond a job platform. And for that reason, I think it's changed lives for many people, lawyers and business owners in general.
Yeah. And for anybody, listen, regardless of the source of a comment that says, if you're a good lawyer, you don't need to market yourself, I can say with 100% confidence, that is not accurate. That is wrong. In this day and age, you're a brand or you're not a brand. Right? Look, I will tell people candidly, I have worked with you. I continue to work with you. I still will publish stuff myself, which I did this morning and stepped on my own posting because I published it at 6:30 and then I didn't realize you guys were posting it at 9:30. But that's fine, right? Like it is what it is. I put out so much content, it doesn't matter. But the number of people that have said, one, I get case referrals out of it, right? Two, the number of people that have walked through my doors for high-level interviews, because I'm really only doing high-level interviews at this point with lawyers or whatever, that have said, I follow you on LinkedIn, I follow you on social media, I've done my research on you. Like I had one person say, I listened to every one of your podcasts before I interviewed with you. Right? That's 150 episodes of podcasts somebody listened to. So the point of it is also, though, that, I just followed what interests me. I ended up positioning myself as an expert in what interests me, right? So I do talk about cases, but mostly the lawyers that are referring to me because of the business processes, the philosophies that I put out there. But working with you has helped me amplify it exponentially because I just go through these droughts where I'm like, I can't come up with any more. Uma's got this way of getting me talking on those interviews that she conducts. Next thing I know, I got to review like 10 different posts, 12 different posts that she comes up with, right? That she's written or somebody else has written. But I have seen lawyers that still aren't using it correctly. Like, is there something you would advise people against when they're doing it themselves where it's just low engagement stuff? Is it a me thing that turns it into low engagement?
Yeah, the toughest thing is what you dealt with is like running out of ideas, or like, I don't know, like it's hard when you're sitting in front of a blank piece of paper and coming up with an idea, or you're looking at ChatGPT. And that's the problem that we see a lot is they go to ChatGPT and like, I want to write a post about this. And it's like, the idea can't come from ChatGPT. The idea has to come from what you experienced. So I think what most lawyers should do instead of pulling up ChatGPT is like pull up your calendar. Look at all the calls, look at all the meetings you had and clients you spoke to, and like think about what happened there, like a couple hours after doing it. And you'll see that there are so many post ideas in those conversations. Every single call you have, every conversation, internal meeting is an idea for a post. There's something that was learned there, that was shared there, that is certainly valuable to many others. And so the people are just trying to think about like the post on its own, but like just don't think about it like that. Just go and look at everything you experienced that day or the day before, or even the week before, and think about it like what you got out of that conversation. Because what that does too is it's not generic. Right? It's what we call one-of-one content. It's unique to you, nobody else, but you experienced it. And that's the key. You want your unique POV on content. We don't do generic stuff. And that's why we do the interview process. That's why we interview for an hour a month, because it's the way for us to get all that expertise, that knowledge out of you, because we're not trying to make stuff up and we're not trying to put words in your mouth. Like, we're trying to just get, like, tell us what happened last week type thing. And we'll find the stuff and we'll dig deeper into the stuff that we think is valuable to share. And that's also, like, when people are scrolling on the feed, like, they're looking for entertainment. Like, don't get it wrong. Like, LinkedIn is a social network for like networking and building a brand and helping others. But people are on LinkedIn because they're bored. Like, let's be honest. Like, if they could be doing something else, but instead they're scrolling on the feed. And like, sure, it feels like a productive scroll because it's not TikTok or it's not Instagram.
Oh, Facebook.
It feels more professional. Right. Yeah, exactly. You feel better about it. But the reality is you're bored and you're spending time on LinkedIn. You could be doing something else. That's the truth. And so what happens is when you write content, you have to keep that in mind, that your reader right now is looking to be entertained through business content, through like memes, whatever, but they're looking to be entertained. And so you only have a few seconds to capture their attention. And so one of those ways is to provide something that is unique that they can get anywhere else. So when they're scrolling the feed and they see Thomas with his take, it's like, if I don't read this now, I'll probably never see it again. Because like, it probably won't pop up on my feed again. So like, now's the time to consume it. I'll save it for later or I'll read it right now.
Right.
But like, if it's just like top 3 things I would do if I landed my first PI case, like now, like I could just chat GPT that, like it's been done. You know what I mean? So like, bringing your take on like, this is what happened in my first trial. This is what I did wrong. And this is what I would do instead. It's a much more interesting take than being like, these are 3 things you should do, you know?
Yeah, there's a lawyer that I follow and connected to out of, I think he's in Miami. I forget the guy's name. He is, Jonathan, I forget his last name. Who?
Pollard?
Yes. So he posted something today. I'm like, whatever else I'm doing, I'm going back and reading that post later. It was about an $18 million verdict and having in-house counsel, blah, blah, blah. He gets it. You get that hook in. I got to go back and read that post, right? I got to go back and read that. So
but what he does really well is he's being himself. I don't know him personally. From the outside, it seems like he's just being himself and he does not care what anybody else thinks.
Correct. And that's kind of how I approach it too. Like, you don't have to love me. This is who I am. I'm not for everybody, right? It is what it is. So,
and you'll attract the people that like that style and you'll repel the people that don't like that style. And that's kind of on purpose. Like you want to work with the people that think like you or respect you, and you're not going to work with the people that don't. And so like by voicing his opinion, he's like transparent. Like, this is how I work. This is how I handle my cases. If you're my client, this is how we're going to work. Like, he's very upfront about it. And so people respect that. And on top of that, he's very opinionated and he shares his things. So that's the kind of content that people will get value from. And it's also polarizing. And so it goes both ways. People disagree and they'll comment, and that will just help him get his message further.
Yeah. Plus, he's a smart dude and he's killing it, right? Yeah. He's a true believer in his mission, which I love. Like, that's what I'm about, that fight, right? So, so when you realized, hey, this can actually drive business for people, not just engagement, right? Like, when did that epiphany come into the journey?
Very early, like when we start getting posts and sending Laura saying, hey, I'm looking for commercial litigator, say, oh, like actually I might have a case for you. But like those referrals came in. But the biggest one was we're writing for a plaintiff employment lawyer and we wrote a post that posted 6.2 million impressions. And that post generated like, I think it was like 2,000 DMs in the first like 14 days. It was nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great. And because it's a plaintiff employment lawyer, what I realized, and this was the first time writing for plaintiff employment lawyer, and I didn't realize that case. I had my suspicion, like the employees are on LinkedIn, like you should be able to market to them and be able to like get cases. And so we had this post, HR is not your friend on the whiteboard. It's 6.2 million impressions. Got 2,000 messages.
I saw that. That's crazy.
Got 90 cases. Referred out 75, took on 15.
Wow.
3-month-old firm, like blew up overnight from 800 followers to 20,000 followers in 10 days. Just crazy. It was crazy. And so like that was like, whoa, okay. Like there's more that's possible on here. Because initially some of the posts were doing like 15, 20,000 impressions. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then I'm on 6.2 was like, okay, like my perception of what is possible is completely switched.
Yeah, dude, that's brilliant. And again, I would discourage people from playing the engagement game. It's about people feeling like they know, like, and trust you, right? That was one of the posts I put up recently is I heard a brilliant definition of trust, which is trust is reliability, credibility, and intimacy, right? Putting up that generic stuff, that's not going to get you business from it. Why people refer me business off of it is I have that reliability, credibility, and they feel like that intimate connection because I've been posting for so long at this point. They're listening to the podcast as well, right? But you guys have a brilliant way of capturing voice. I'm still not sure how you work that mystical magic you do. And I know you're a tech guy. I'm pretty sure you're using tech. Like I'm in the project planner you do, right? And I always scratch my head. I go, I know he's using tech some way, but I know that what you're doing is not AI generated slop, right? So whatever it is you're doing, keep doing it because I'm happy with the outcomes.
It kind of reminds me of the post that the associates who leave at 5:01 wonder why they're not in the room with senior people. Meanwhile, the right people are in the room until 6:30 or later.
Yeah.
And look, obviously not everybody's going to agree with that. Like people are going to be upset about it. They're going to be like, that's not true. The truth is like you're talking from experiences and from some things you've heard, from things you've seen. And I could see there's some truth to that. I can see why people would push back because they don't want people to work past 5. And I get that. But it was controversial. And obviously did like, I got 75,000 people saw it.
Right.
A lot of people commented and I saw. And what I find interesting is when opposing views get in the comments and then they have a comment and those comments alone gets hundreds of likes.
I know. I know.
You see that there's a clash. That's kind of what feeds it.
But it freaked me out where I was like, what? There's no nuance. I'm talking about if you're running a trial firm and you're on trial, right? Like, I just basically stopped looking for a while because I was like, when it starts to get that chaotic, flurry of activity, I know that's what we look for, but I'm like, I'm not engaging right now. People started calling me names. I was like, man, like no nuance whatsoever. No nuance whatsoever. So,
but that's because if there's nuance, that it loses the potency, right? If there's a take and you're not wishy-washy on your opinion, then it's like you picked your side and that's what it is. The content that doesn't do really well is when you're just like, it could be this, it could like, the typical lawyer response, it depends. You know what I mean? If your content is, it depends, then people are just going to be like, he's not really taking a side on this. He's like not very opinionated, whatever. And so that's a good example of that.
Yeah, people want to hear your opinion, right? And not every opinion. I mean, there's some people I'm like, I got to keep scrolling. I don't need it can't be redundant either. You know what I mean? When you're doing consultations now, are there things that still surprise you about the lawyers that you consult with?
I've interviewed 400 lawyers. Everything still surprises us in terms of the content and the stories. Cases like that always surprises me, like what a client may do or what my client may not do or like what happened in court. Like there's some things that always are like surprising. I can't think of one on the top of mind, but like we have a criminal defense attorney. He does federal cases only, just like high stakes, like really high profile stuff and representing Elizabeth Holmes' husband. And so like when we hear the stories there, we're like, holy crap, this is, first of all, it's going to make for great content, but like the stories there are just surreal.
Yeah. Anytime I get a chance to talk to any criminal defense lawyers that are friends of mine, I like listening to their stories because it's really different from my experience. So do you find that people are still resistant to the idea of a personal brand as lawyers?
That question, I didn't really know how to answer it, to be honest. Some are resisting on posting, but it's very few. Like, for example, like I've interviewed over 400 lawyers. It's only happened once where the lawyer I interviewed, I wrote the post, loved the post. He reviewed them and all that. He loved them and wouldn't post them. Didn't feel comfortable with. He was just like nervous. And I get it because like I went through the same thing. I wrote 500 posts for lawyers before I ever post on my profile. Like I'm an introvert. Like I keep to myself. Like I don't post on Facebook and all that. Instagram, my wife manages. And so for me, it was like kind of hypocritical for me not to post on LinkedIn. And so I knew what the opportunity I was missing out on from not doing it. So I knew it was going to happen. I know how hard it was to make that first post. But I'd say lawyers, especially personal injury, family, criminal offense, like marketing is the game. Like we were talking before, it's like they know how important it is to be out there and like they're hurting their firm not to put themselves out there, right? If anything. And so like building a personal brand has been some of the most successful lawyers we work with absolutely understand personal brand. It's harder for certain law firm owners that are just getting started. They're like more in like the PPC and they want to get like high intent leads, right? And I get that you have to be kind of present there. But what they don't realize, and this is something I missed because for more context, like I used to work in media buying. I used to work for an agency a long time ago before I got into tech. And we would do like pure on PPC and all that, like huge budgets, millions of dollars every month and spend. And I was like, I hate brand. We had like these brand campaign. I was like, these are not performing. This is bull. Like, what are we doing? Like bottom of funnel, like let's get those conversions, especially with like the whole internet marketing was like, why would you do brand when you can do like direct response and get like conversion and ROI on your dollars? But what I failed to realize and only realized that much later is that your brand, your personal brand or your company brand allows you to get leads much cheaper because people know you and what they're just looking for your name. It's a completely different game than them searching for a personal injury attorney in New York when they're searching TonaLaw in New York. Like it's much different frame. And so investing in brand became like, I understood like why companies did it, why personal brands would do it, because it just meant stronger. Like it just meant you weren't competing for the kind of same audience. You're just staying top of mind. So when your service or offer is just like, oh, well, I got to talk to Thomas or I got to talk to Jacob. Like that's the first first name that pops to mind? Like any lawyer, like if I'm thinking personal injury attorney in Austin, like what's your first name that comes to mind?
Adam Lowy.
Exactly. If you think personal injury in Utah, what comes to mind? Do you have a name?
I do. I'm drawing a blank now. You put me on the spot. Who are you thinking?
Kurt London. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah. Sorry.
You know?
Yeah. And it's funny because 100%, I feel like what it has done, having a personal brand, which is bananas. I've told the story before, but I'll share it with you. What happened is it has such a compounding effect for the bottom of the funnel stuff, right? Now they work in kind of in tandem. But I'll tell you a funny story. I went to a wedding where there were 1,000 people invited. 1,000 people. And I don't do weddings. Usually it's after hours. I go to bed at 8:30. Everybody knows my routine from social media, whatever. And during the cocktail hour, a guy comes up to me. Now, my wife and daughter are there, right? So the guy's an orthopedic surgeon. He goes, I follow you on LinkedIn. It's you, right, Tom, from LinkedIn? I look at my wife and daughter. I go, yep, it's me. He goes, can I take a picture with you? This is like a legit orthopedic surgeon, high level doing spine surgeries. Can I take a picture with you? Yes, no problem. Takes a picture, posts it on LinkedIn. And the guy says in front of my daughter, he goes, man, you're like really well known. Like, I feel honored that I got to meet you in person, right? So he walks away. My daughter and wife are like, you gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. That was the response just from LinkedIn, right? Oh, and by the way, I have his business now. This is an institutional B2B collection account that we do his collections for. My wife and daughter thought it was a joke until they realized just how far the reach goes, right? And so stuff like that happens all the time, though. All the time. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Quick break to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This episode is supported by TonalLaw, a modern law firm built on integrity and innovation. Learn how they're changing the game at TonalLaw.com. Attorney referrals accepted from across the country. You'll see what it's like when you send us a case. You'll have some happy clients. You kind of answered it, but I would ask it this way. What makes LinkedIn so different from SEO, paid ads, newsletters, or even traditional face-to-face networking?
Yeah. So I think it would be a great complement to face-to-face network. Because the thing is, like, you go to PIMCon, you go to all these conferences, and then it kind of dies off in between. You kind of like, maybe a few emails back and forth, whatever, but like there's like dead, like you don't engage with your network. And like most lawyers, and you probably have some idea about this, but like most law firms, like if you ask them like, how much are you spending on referral marketing? And it's like, the budgets are nil, like very tiny compared to like PPC and the paid media.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, where are your cases coming from? Like, where are some of the biggest cases? And I speak from experience, like from the lawyers that we talk to, some of the best cases they get are referrals. Like we got Daniel Schneiderman in San Diego. He got a DM from a IP lawyer in Arizona from LinkedIn, 8-figure case.
Wow.
And so like, but the thing is, the recurring theme that I was hearing is that like, oh, these referral cases are highly vetted and they go through the intake system. Like they're worth referring. Like there's something worth there, right? And so the case that you get from a referral, like sure, there'll be like referral fees to pay out, but like the case is a good case. Like Kurt wanted to just refer a case to Adam. Adam's like, that's the amazing case. Like it's
really
like, you know, these cases are good when they come from an attorneys. And so spending time on LinkedIn, networking with those attorneys, staying top of mind with those referral partners is a great way for between those conferences or those meetups, those in-person chats or podcasts, whatever, to keep engaging, keep the conversation going so that like you could stay top of mind long enough. Because the thing is, when you get a case and you refer, I know like there's a name that pops up in your mind, like we got to send this to this person. And that happens a split second because you know that lead's not going to sit around forever. So you got to refer that case out quick. And that person needs to sign up that case really quick. And so you need to have that top of mind. And the only way you get that top of mind is just constantly be networking with your referral network.
Yeah, but I also think what's interesting about it, because I had an epiphany, believe it or not, the other night. I'm doing a paid advertising channel on social. And I said, those are the highest flight risk clients unless you're immediately connecting, nurturing, and building trust. And so we have a new position for specific to pay very close attention to that, right? What you're talking about is much lower flight risk because they're personal referrals from another lawyer, right? So unless that lawyer got that through advertising where they're making a referral, then you still have to build those connections right away and very fast. But a lot of times the stuff I'm getting is, oh, my so-and-so relative or one of my current clients has a relative that was injured in New York. right? Those have a higher credibility built in. It goes to that know, like, and trust factor. And so, yeah, that's why those referrals are so valuable. That's why they become so higher conversion, lower flight risk, right? So to me, that's where the LinkedIn comes into effect. They're able to say, listen, I connected with this guy at a conference. I met him before. We've talked. We may have chatted offline. Like whenever lawyers reach out to me on LinkedIn, lawyers only, not marketing people, lawyers only, I will always say, here's my cell phone, text me offline. Send them my business card, my digital business card, right? Now you're in their cell phone. So it's a great force multiplier. Having that personal brand, especially on LinkedIn, especially the way you guys do it. Like, I thought I was a LinkedIn expert. You guys came in, you revamped my entire profile. And I was like, oh, this is why they get paid the bucks, man, because they know what they're doing. And I heard from people, hey, I love what your profile looks like. I'm like, I got a guy for you if you need it. Are there specific practice areas you think that benefit most, or is it just basically all lawyers can benefit from it?
All lawyers, really. Like, there's two profiles, right? There's the corporate lawyer, also the personal injury, like civil family lawyers. Those are the ones that could stay top of mind within the referral network, will benefit from LinkedIn, from connecting with other lawyers.
B2C, the B2C stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like, their play is stay top of mind within your referral network and you can get cases. The other one is the corporate lawyers. Like corporate lawyers, like commercial litigators, M&A, IP, trademark, whatever it is. They can get business from LinkedIn directly. Like, they can network their way into business owners because the business owners are on LinkedIn. Like, if you're a tech startup lawyer, like you help them with fundraising or setting up their shell agreements, whatever it is, and you do that for tech startups are on LinkedIn. They're actually one of the most active demographics because they actually engage, they prospect, their whole go-to-market strategy is on LinkedIn,
Is LinkedIn,
right? So
yeah,
exactly. So they're there for sure. And so you could definitely get business from engaging with those tech startups. Really, those are the two playbooks. And then there's a third playbook, which is the plaintiff employment lawyers, which can get direct business and B2C, like from the employees on LinkedIn.
Right.
And so that's really unique. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, listen, I follow a bunch of the people that you write for because their stories are fascinating. And the way you guys tell them is really, it's well written, like it's good content. So when you have lawyers who are like, I like the idea of it, but I don't have anything to post. That seems to be it seems like you have the methodology down through the interview process. You want to explain that a little bit? Like for people that don't know you, who might be nervous about reaching out, they're like, I don't want to do LinkedIn. Hopefully they know at this point, listen, if I get business off of LinkedIn, you can get business off of LinkedIn. You just got to put the time and the work in. But let's say somebody says, I want to work with somebody like you, Jacob. They're like, I'm not going to write. I don't love the written things, not my thing. So your methodology, you want to tell people kind of how you work a little bit?
Yeah. So the way we started, well, first we have like a content strategy call where we try to figure out like who's your ideal referral partner. We usually have a pretty good idea because we've probably worked in your practice area and we probably have like some people we can compare you to. Then the second thing is like the research that we do. So before each interview, we do like 2-3 hours of research to look at past interviews that we've done with you. We look at topics in the news that are trending, so like Google alerts based on like topics that are interesting to you. So like if you're a criminal defense attorney, maybe like cases in the news that you may have an opinion about that we want to bring up, that kind of stuff. And then so we put all that information. And the last thing I'd say is that for that research, we also have a library of 8,000 posts on LinkedIn because we've written over 8,000 posts on LinkedIn. And so we've labeled and categorized each of those 8,000 posts per practice area, per topic, and we have all the metrics tied to each of those posts.
So there's a science to this. You actually got like a science.
That's a tech side.
I was going to say, man, you've got that. I am always fascinated by people that think the way you think, mostly because I don't think that way. Like I can't think. It's the biggest block I have is thinking in systems. I know I need them. I know that I'm watching my operators right now do exactly what you've done for yourself in my world. My brain just doesn't function that way. I don't know if it's a creative thing that I have, that I don't have that engineer's brain, that linear thinking engineer's brain. So that's interesting to hear you finally say like, yeah, there's actually a science to this. We've got everything tagged and indexed and quantified, all of that stuff.
Yeah. And we could chat with that database, right? So like we could look at like, okay, we're running this campaign with this strategy for this criminal defense attorney. Can you pull up like, these are the some interests that they have. These are topics they're interested in. Can you like pull up the top performing posts in the last 4 weeks so that we could look at some of the hooks that perform really well? And then what we could do is we can reverse engineer those posts to get your point of view. Because what we're not trying to do is like copy paste like exact post that was done by another client of ours. What we're trying to do is get your point of view on that topic. And then we have different hook formulas or post structures that would fit, okay, like we could probably write in something around this. Like we extract a story from you and then we'll just package it in a way that we think will likely yield good results and attention that people will want to read. And so, so we package that onto that interview and then we get that interview. And the interview is the key piece. Like without the interview, we've got nothing. Like the reality is that none of our teams are lawyers. And that's kind of by design. Like we have screenwriters, we have fiction writers, we have journalists, like all our writers, they do everything but LinkedIn. Or they did everything but LinkedIn.
Right.
Because I'm looking for like a diverse background that knows how to interview, that can get stories out. And then most importantly, can then know what's interesting, what makes for good content. And then that knows how to write stuff that gets people's attention. And so that's why the interview is important, because we can extract those stories from you, then we can extract your point of view and your expertise out of it. And then from that point on, like we do the first draft and then we have somebody review it internally and then it gets assigned to you. And then it's co-writing in the sense that like we basically have you come in and redline it, give us your comments, and we work on the edits until you give us the approval. And then once you give us the approval, it goes out.
I was doing that today, right? I actually enjoy it because I'm like, okay, I like the foundation, but I want it to sound a little bit more like me, whatever. But you guys do a great job out of the gate, I guess, because of the interview process. And I've developed a relationship with the person that does at least the interview and the initial drafting. So it's super interesting. Plus you've recorded so somebody can really deep dive on for me, it's about authenticity of voice capture, right? If it doesn't sound like me, then I don't want it written, right? So like I can say like you guys do an awesome job. Plus I'm friends with a lot of the people that you write for now. And I'm noticing like, yeah, that is how he sounds. That is how she sounds. You know what I mean? So it's pretty interesting to see. And I think that, the stuff that I stopped reading, if you're listening to this, your personal injury attorney, if you start with settlement alert, please, you're going to make me punch myself in the face with my own computer. Please stop posting. Nobody wants to hear this settlement alert stuff. That doesn't build that intimacy piece of trust, right? I will refer to somebody that I just read the content that's written if I feel like I know them. That's that intimacy connection. That's why I love the idea of trust involving that. Do you feel like you intimately know somebody? Have they earned that trust? Which is, listen, before you guys, I would have said it's almost impossible to do, except your methodology breeds that. The interview process, along with the transcription process, where then you have your writers go in and draft the posts, it does capture that stuff. It does sound like me, where I go, wow, that is how I would write this, right? That's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, because I kept trying to figure out and deconstruct the magic behind what you do. And it's in your process. It's in your process. And I actually enjoy the process, the system that you employ. So that's why I was like, yeah, we'll get you on, man. I think it makes sense for people that listen to this to say, look, I don't have the time or the bandwidth, but I'm giving them an option with a resource like you to say, hey, you should be talking to Jacob, you know what I mean? Or his team. Do you guys ever worry about, I know a lot of lawyers get concerned about posting on social media with ethics, but it seems like you guys toe a pretty good line. Plus the lawyers get the final revision anyway, right?
Yeah, like you would think that like some of the topics that are shared or details about clients sometimes are pushed too close. We have a client, he's an ethics lawyer. We write for him. So
oh, that's hilarious. I wonder if it's the same guy that I use for ethics.
And it's interesting because his clients are mostly PI firms, criminal defense firms, but PI firms, plaintiff employment lawyers firms.
Okay.
It's really interesting the stories that he has, because like he knows the bad stuff that's happening in the wider purse, Right. So yeah, he's like, I think that post is pushing it a bit, but for the most part, like it's been fine. Like the feedback we've been getting from him is like maybe some lawyers are pushing it a bit more, but like I wouldn't think it's a concern at all. Yeah, it hasn't been an issue. But the one thing I'll touch on what you said before this is like when we think about the content strategy, we think about, because you said the trust thing. There's three things we think about. When we're posting content, it has to do one of three things. One, has to show what kind of person you are, like what kind of values you have, like family man, dad, whatever, like all those, like if you're a golfer, whatever hobbies you have, anything that are interests that maybe can resonate or connect with other people. That's one. The second thing is that you generate great outcomes for your clients. You're excellent at what you do. You know the law, you know the practice area really well, and that's great. And then the last piece is you take great care of your clients. And if we could show the type of lawyer, how you treat your clients, and we can achieve those three things, then the lawyers that are potentially referring will be like, oh yeah, Thomas is a cool guy. Like I grab coffee with him, like super chill. Like I'd be happy to firm a case, whatever that is. Like he's going to treat his client better than maybe I would at my own firm. So like I feel good about referring that case over. So if you can hit those three things, typically lawyers will see like, okay, like Thomas the real deal, or Adam's the real deal, Kurt's the real deal, Damien's the real deal, whatever. Like they'll be like, yeah, I'm comfortable referring that case to Monica and so on.
Yeah, and that's basically the same tenets of building a business, right? Get great great results, which is table stakes. Everybody just expects that of their lawyer, and make them feel like they had a world-class experience, which again, people that are listening to this, I think it's on topic enough, but it came up, you brought it up, which is like, we've taken a very client-centered approach, more so this year than ever before, because I can't compete with the 800-pound gorillas on their marketing spend, but no one's going to out-care me for my clients, right? They're your clients to lose is something I've been repeating in all my posts recently, which is, hey man, when clients leave, don't get mad at the client. Get mad at yourself. It's your fault. It's your client to lose, right? So I think that the three tenets you just said of what makes great posts or what attracts, those referrals, it's basically the same thing that keeps your clients happy. It's what helps you build your business, right? I mean, at the core, great results, great client care, those two things, that's what it's about. 100%. Yeah. So anything you would leave people with so they understand more of what you do?
Yeah. So I would say we do it's a white glove service on LinkedIn. Like we take care of the interviews, we take care of the drafting, we take care of the profile, we take care of the sending the connection requests to those relevant referral partners. So if you're a PI attorney in New York, then I would say let's add all the criminal defense attorneys in New York. Let's add all the family lawyers in New York. Let's add all the immigration lawyers that are based out of New York. And then probably go do personal injury out of state, medical malpractice, maybe in state and out of state. And so that's part of what we covered. And then what I say, the way we work is and we do this nearly with every single client we sign up, is we do a free interview at the beginning to write the post so that we can see one, can we build that rapport on that call? Do we feel good about the interviews? And can we interview? Because sometimes it's happened where we come on these calls and we have a lawyer in front of us and we ask questions. It's one sentence answers. That's going to be tough. If you don't give me much, so we don't make stuff up. We just use what you give us. And so if you're short on your answers, it's going to be tough. And we'll know right there. Usually it's not the case. Lawyers have a lot to say, so it's usually not an issue, but it happens. And then we do the review process. We go through, we'll draft the post, and then we'll sit on the call and we'll review the post together. And again, it's validation. You like how these came across? Is this a workable product? Or is this are we too far off? And then that allows us to one, go into the relationship, being confident that both sides are yeah, this trial period was amazing. Let's move forward. Let's keep doing this. And so that for us has been really helpful to find people that we enjoy working with and that we can generate great results with, and that respect and appreciate the work that we're putting into it as well. So that's been the biggest thing. And so that's what we encourage everybody to just give it a shot. And then there's no strings attached. We'll just write that.
And again, I have a friend who is in a B2B vertical. I got to connect her with you because, you nailed it, right? So she's in a very, very sophisticated area of law. It's taken me 2 years to understand it. She finally produced a piece of content that she's using with her current clients in mind, where I was like, I finally understand what you do, right? She's got stories to tell. And that's the thing, is that you have to be a great storyteller. And I would say that the people that even aren't great storytellers, those are the ones that would benefit from working with you even more, because at the end of the day, I love telling stories, right? But I also know that that's what built my business, is communicating with people. At the fundamentals, I built a very robust, multiple seven-figure law firm from telling people stories and connecting with people, right? I know that sounds crazy, but that's how I built my business. And when you get people with the one-word answers, those are the people that probably need you the most, which is, look, let's get to know each other a little bit. You trust me, give me a little bit more to work with so that this way I can actually get your stories out there online. Becomes super important. You're missing out on a huge sector of business. I'll land the plane with this. A friend of mine at a mastermind who's a brilliant networker was picking my brain about how to do it on LinkedIn. And I basically said, it's the same thing as doing it in real life. Show up, be authentic, and tell great stories, right? And if you're too busy or you're not great at just showing up, that's where somebody like you really can come in and add tremendous value, right? And, for anybody who wants to reach out Jacob Molina on LinkedIn, go on LinkedIn and follow Jacob, because you give away very valuable content. You're here is the anatomy of viral posts that we did. Hook, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm going to feed that into ChatGPT for a second. And you know what? It spit out a bunch of drivel for me. It didn't do what, it requires a human writer behind it that gets it, that says, hey, I'm trying to capture a voice. And, AI is not what you want for content. It's just not. It's not in my world anyway. So, but is there any other way you'd want people to reach out to you, Jacob?
No, like LinkedIn is the place. Like DM me on LinkedIn, send me a connection request. I'm more than happy to chat. And I think we emailed you about this, but we're publishing a book where we're compiling all the stories of the lawyers that we've interviewed. So we've interviewed over 400. We have about 100 that signed up for it that give us okay. The idea is we've posted over 8,000 posts on LinkedIn. We've gotten DMs and comments about, like, for example, a sobriety post, and like DMs like flooded, like, hey man, I really appreciate your journey. I'm struggling right now, or I've been sober for 5 years, whatever it is. Or like, I'm just coming out of law school. I don't know which practice area to get. Like, but your post has been helpful. Like, these comments and DMs are like, we've gotten hundreds of thousands. Like, it's crazy. And what's unfortunate is that the posts, they go on LinkedIn, but then they go out of the feed, they disappear, right? Unless you bring back those ideas and repost an idea, that like it's gone forever, right? It'll be like on your profile, but nobody will scroll through it ever. And so the idea is that, like, how can we take all these stories and put them in a place where people could always like scroll through them or I should say read them at any point in time and pick it up from. And so we had the idea of putting a book together where we compile all the stories so that you can have it on your coffee table and you can go through it. It's not a book that you'll just like read from end to end. It's like you just open up on page 55 and there'll be a banger story there about a lawyer that went through something really difficult or something interesting. And so we're putting 150 plus lawyers in there, and we have a pro bono client. They're a pro bono firm in California, and they help families that can't afford legal representation, but they're dealing with domestic violence.
Okay.
And so we write for the CEO there. And so we agreed with her that we would donate all the proceeds of that book to our organization. Yeah. So we're putting all these stories together. We're going to be selling it, but launching the book end of the year. And so if anybody has an interesting story to share, we'd love to hear it, feature in the book. And then obviously to get a final approval on the story that goes out there. The goal is to get those stories out there and inspire more lawyers, our future lawyers, existing lawyers, maybe aspiring law firm owners to get going. And then we do that through stories.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things too is that what I find to be the most interesting stuff that I read is when people are just real, right? Like, I don't want to hear everything's rainbows and butterflies about your business. That's not true. There's no way everything's hunky-dory with everything. So like, you lose credibility doing that, right? You're better off, you're probably hurting yourself in doing that. What I like is that you drag stories out that people are probably not comfortable with. I never talk about my spouse, and somehow you guys got a post out of me that's going to go live about my relationship with my wife and why it's so challenging being married to an entrepreneur like me, right? But I think that that's the stuff that people want to hear. They want to hear, like, what's the person behind the person that I actually have to refer a case to, right? Or something like that. So look, man, keep doing what you're doing. Working with you guys has been awesome. I think I told you that offline, is that I found it truly enjoyable. I think what you do and how you do it is very different from other quote unquote vendors I've worked with. I actually don't consider you guys vendors. Like, I look forward to talking to you guys, right? I don't have to manage you. I get to see the end result. And you do what you're supposed to do. You're very reliable. And I guess that's the thing, right? Like, reliability. And I feel an intimate connection having spoken with you and the people that are assigned to me, right? Like, they show up, they're always pleasant, they're on time, they're reliable. I'm in and out in a half an hour, and then I've got all the content for the month. So it's been awesome. It's really been awesome working with you. If anybody listening to this, just mention Lead Counsel, and Jacob will always do the right thing by everybody. Anyway, but mention Lead Counsel, maybe it gets you a little special break on your first month or whatever. So
there you go.
All right. Listen, man, thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Thomas. Pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, I'm Tona. Go Anywhere Podcasts are distributed. Follow us, leave us a 10-star review, share some episodes with your friends. And thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you. This episode is sponsored by TonalLaw. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. TonalLaw is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. If you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals, check out TonaLaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you.